I'm Mэрilin Atkinson from Erickson Coaching International, and I've been teaching spiral dynamics in all of my programs for over 35 years. Now, coaching has been around for 20 years, maybe not 35, maybe it's 30, I should get out my calculator. But I began actually introducing the topic of spiral dynamics into my values conversations as an NLP teacher way back at the very beginning of my career. And I was very interested in values and value development. And spiral dynamics was a wonderful assist for that. It allowed me to consider truly the stages of complexity and cultural value development, all the components of value unfolding that I considered very relevant to the courses I was teaching. Now, I've been teaching at least and about 2 hours of spiral dynamics in every program that I teach. In my Module 3 of the Art and Science of Coaching is a framework for, on the morning of day 3, a very vital conversation about world values in coaching and how coaches can pay attention to the culture that their clients are from, the dreams that their clients have, the direction that their clients are developing themselves towards. All of this is part of the spiral dynamics conversation, and it's part of the coaching conversation. I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, sure thing. So, what is the sense of this model? What is it based on?
Okay. Actually, at the beginning, we never called it spiral dynamics. This is based on the work of Claire Graves, who was a very amazing researcher back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. Claire Graves was a colleague of Maslow's who focused on culture and world culture. He took it out, not in. And he asked very important questions about how human beings develop, about values and about complexity. So he took the study of the mind into the study of humanity and the projects that human beings take on in terms of the complexity of their cultures that they're developing and why those were relevant at the times that they developed them in. Now, I read an article of Claire Graves. I think it was probably his first major public article. It was a very clear unfolding of the system. For years I called it Claire Graves' value system. And I worked with it with a lot of my own development of four-quadrant thinking. I used it from the time I read that article, actually, and have used it as a simple overview of some of the profound questions that need to be asked in the world about how human beings are developing and where they're going. Does that answer?
It sure does. So, how can the understanding of spiral dynamics affect the decision-making process in the modern world?
Okay. Now, here we've got a very important question. This is the essence of coaching. With coaching, we're always looking at what are the most important questions that human beings need to be asking. We're looking at it on an individual level. We're looking at a cultural level. We're looking at it in terms of the results people want to have in their companies and teams. We're looking at it in terms of, call it the unfolding of humanity, the whole area of who we want to be as human beings on this planet. And the questions that we need to ask really come from taking a big picture look at where we've been and where we're going, and seeing some of the snarls we've gotten into. Now, people try and do this from a lot of different perspectives, but usually they do it from what I call problem thinking. And with spiral dynamics, we have an opportunity to look at it in terms of the unfolding of the human mind. What are we human beings becoming, and what makes this important to us for the next stage of our development on this planet? There's a lot of issues right now on the planet, and one of them has to do with the speed of human development. Spiral dynamics gives us some information about that as well, because we can see an increased development of human awareness, and it's increasing exponentially. This is an important consideration, and spiral dynamics helps us to see that. Okay.
So what is the role of four-quadrant thinking and integral theory in the process of harmonizing the development of human systems?
Ooh, okay, that's a great question. So when we look at the human mind, we're always looking at the fourness of the human mind. Now, I've been involved with four-quadrant thinking for, again, 30 years. This has been one of the most exciting areas of my own work. People in Russia who were in my first trainer's training, I think it was back in end of the 80s, the beginning of the 90s, I put up four-quadrant models all along the wall. And I also was teaching them spiral dynamics. And truly showing how if we could integrate four-quadrant awareness into our questions, then we have a simplified way to develop ourselves in a very profound and balanced framework. There's something here that is really relevant, and it has to do with the way in which we develop our mind. We need three frameworks, three key considerations that when they're there, four-quadrant thinking becomes self-evident and becomes possible. One of them is what we call coach position, and that is the ability for people to take an observer position outside of any, first of all, brain content that they've got, but beyond that, any model that they've got, so that they can observe how they are part of something. Now, coach position is a big part of the art and science of coaching. We're training coaches in how to step outside of their thought systems, their beliefs, their assumptions about their client, but more so their assumptions about the past, the present, and the future, to actually get big picture thinking going with themselves and their client. Now, or their team, or their company, or their culture. Now, the second thing that's part of this is awareness of a whole system. So we're working with a human being as a whole system. We're working with a company as a whole system, a team awareness. We're working with a country, a culture as a whole system. And when we're working with spiral dynamics and coaching together, we've got a very electric combination. Now, the third area where we're really putting full focused attention is on how to move the system. We need both the ability to take coach position the ability to have whole system thinking combined with the ability to move. Now, by movement, we mean conscious movement. We don't mean being moved by the system like a chess piece. We mean the ability to grow something in an effective way. Grow our awareness, and that's our personal questioning abilities, grow our company, grow our team with its dialogue abilities, grow our culture, which is a very, very key question we're asking in the world today. How do we grow our cultures? How do we grow the intelligence of whole systems? And with that, how do we grow the capacity for humanity to take ownership of our own governance, our own direction as a human system? We're playing with the art and science of coaching, but with the coaching systems around the world. Right now, Ericsson is in 40 countries. That means we're really growing coaching widely and profoundly. So in these areas, we're training coaches to work with something we call the world game. The world game is a system for genuinely touching who we want to be in the world as something larger than a set of cultural problems. Who are we becoming as we work through those problems, as we step around those problems, as we focus on something more whole, complete, and profound than those problems? Now, we're discovering that people are much more able than the world thinks to do this work. We are able to move that exponential growth of human consciousness forward and do it quickly. And we can do it when we add coach-style questioning, which allows us to move systems, which allows us to move our mind, with whole system awareness, which spiral dynamics gives us. Where we've been, where we are currently, where we're unfolding. And third, when we add all of that to a coach position simplicity, where we're able to ask inward, able to acknowledge something bigger than ourselves, able to genuinely reach for a next step with gratitude and profound awareness of where we've been. Now, how does this all add up to something relevant to you? I think that you're at a profound stage in your own development if you're at a conference on integral awareness and four-quadrant thinking. If you're working with spiral dynamics, you have already allowed yourself to ask a lot of important questions that can be passed on to others. And that's what we human beings want, is people, leaders who have the ability to assist others to develop these key questions that we need to ask in our cultures.
Okay, Mэрilin. So do you have any suggestions for participants of the Instruments of the Future conference?
I was kind of getting into that in the last question. And what's important for all of us is to actually move out of roof brain. And it's very easy to talk about all these things. Intellectuals tend to talk to intellectuals, and it goes on and on. And one reason I developed coaching is that NLPers were talking to NLPers, and it just went on and on. It wasn't making a difference on the planet. what we need are people who are willing to take this work and genuinely develop capacities for leadership. Now, I've been training coaches for that reason. Training coaches allows people to start to think with an expanded awareness towards the people they're talking with. It allows them to listen with expanded ears and allow people around them to become leaders. It allows them to work with bigger models of what it means to be human and genuinely live from those models, not just talk about them. So coaching is very important right now because coaching allows people to step into the shoes of someone who's capable to bring this work to the world. It's very easy to have a discussion. It's a much more powerful thing to genuinely work with others as they develop themselves. So, for you at this conference, I highly recommend that you don't take for granted that you're a knower of this work. Knowing it means using it. Knowing it means four-quadrant thinking. Four-quadrant thinking isn't the same as looking at a beautiful four-quadrant system and saying, wow, that's the way it is. Four-quadrant thinking means that you actually can ask profound questions from each level of awareness that you're talking into. That's a very important part of spiral dynamics. You need to be able to talk to people from where they're thinking. This is what coaching is all about. Four-quadrant thinking means that you are able to find balance in yourself and develop yourself profoundly. That means you may need to work with a coach. You may need to work with self-coaching. And four-quadrant thinking provides some systems for expanding your ability to think on your feet. Now, thinking on your feet isn't just a simple thing. It means that even when you're stressed or people are asking you kinds of questions that would normally throw you out of your roof brain, you can stay with your physical awareness. Stay with your awareness of who they are. Stay speaking with them in such a way that they actually listen. They don't get distracted. And it means that you actually are being competent with not only working with those people you're talking with, but working with yourself so that you are staying present to all the messages coming from inner and outer awareness. Now, to do that, coaching is really, really a useful assistance. I highly recommend the art and science of coaching because we're designing it for people like yourself who need to take coach position on lots of creative ideas. People tend to get run by their ideas. They either get run by their ideas or they get run by their teams. They get run by something. In other words, they get eaten up by whatever it is they're putting their attention on. An idea has a life of its own, and that could be very, very useful to you. But it could also prevent you from genuine leadership when it's needed, genuine ability to assist others, contribute to them, and make a difference in the world. I'll tell you a story. The story is the story of the shark who was this size in a small aquarium in a man's living room in Southern California for 3 years. This guy had a sea aquarium. He loved his little shark, and kept his shark for 3 years from the time it was very small, but it didn't grow past that size. He had to move to Chicago, gate his shark to the Sea World Aquarium, which is, the size of a large auditorium, 3 stories tall. Came back 3 years later, and how big was his shark? It was 2 meters. 2 meters in size. It was a huge shark. It had grown to fit the size of the SeaWorld Aquarium. Now, I think that applies to you. I think it applies to me. Whatever we take on that's worthy of our real attention, whatever we take on that fits our boots, that allows us to step into bigger shoes, that allows us to take on a bigger vision, that grows us. That grows your capacity to actually use the ideas you're working with now. So they're not just a passive set of rules and thoughts. This is how it's been. But they're the springboard for your own development, the springboard for your own profound ability to do 4-quadrant thinking in such a way that your clients at every level of the spiral are growing for themselves, are developing their capacities, and you're involved. You are the ones who are making a difference to the world. So thank you for your attention. I appreciate being here, even if I'm somewhere else. I'm with you. Thank you for listening. Adios, amigos.